Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. Black excellence, black beauty, and black pride. Black power from all diasporas coincide. Progressive truth and regression eventually collide. May the beauty of the people no longer be set aside. May the black queen's grace continually mesmerize the millions who couldn't see it when looking into her eyes. And the black man's plight no longer be the disguise. Oppression, emasculation, they wanna castricize him. Take him away from the black queen, put him inside prison for slave labor, he institutionalized. Wondering on the outside, is she willing to ride? Is she willing to ride? Is she willing to fight for the love, even despite the fact that he doing time? Love that conquers all will never fade with time. If she don't choose the love that appreciates every life, his flame might get dim and he may eventually.
Oh my God, they can hear me right now. All right, there we go. Hey, check this out. Welcome to the Urban Impact Show, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. I know it's been a minute since y'all done seen me. Y'all so used to seeing these beautiful ladies on here, so I had to come back because it was like almost like a takeover. And speaking of takeover, come on, D.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Urban Impact Show. I want you to know the Urban Impact Show is sponsored by Green and Wood Media Services. Green and Wood uses digital media to help businesses, political campaigns, and organizations grow while increasing their community impact. Green and Wood Media is pleased to offer a digital media buying fellowship to train, develop, and mentor young people interested in digital media, politics, and advertising. You can learn more about Green and Wood Media at greenandwoodmedia.com.
So we are here today because we're going to be talking about all things Black health. This month is the month of September. We're going to be talking about health. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we just going to dive right into these conversations. So please do me a favor while we're on this quick break. Just do me a favor, share this stuff, talk about this, bring this up, tell your friends, family, and everybody. Share for the next 30 seconds. Please get us up to at least 50 shares, and then we can continue to do this. And then lastly, remember, this show is only supported by those who continue to share, but also if you would like to support us in any way by running a commercial or doing anything like that, hit us up because we have so much to offer and we got a lot going on. So we'll be right back as we get this show kicked off. Welcome to the Urban Impact Show.
So that it just comes on live.
So welcome back to the Iowa Urban Impact Show. I feel like we should record that.
You record that. Go ahead. Go right ahead.
I kind of like that. All day today, I've been singing that song. All the way turned up.
It's like from like college, I think.
Let me tell you, like 15 years ago, at least.
It's still that. I like that song.
And then right before you came, I was in here turning it into a gospel song. I was in here turning it into a gospel song. But other than that, that's what's up. Anyway, everybody, welcome to the Urban Impact Show. I am one of your hosts, Rob Johnson, and I have two of our lovely hosts with me. Y'all have seen them before. I felt like they was almost trying to take over this thing, man, because let me tell you, for the past, I don't know, how many weeks, Matt, has the women, been on? It's been at least 3.
No, it was last week, and then the youth were the week before.
It's been 3-4 weeks, 5, 6, 7.
That's how long you haven't been around, probably.
Weeks. It's been 9 weeks.
It's all right.
10 weeks.
You just haven't been around that long.
Man, Thank you, Matt. I know you agree with me. Appreciate that. So today we're talking about health, and we're talking about really all things health. So I wanted to just give a couple of stats real quick. And health coverage, right? In 2017, 10.6% of African Americans were uninsured, compared with 5.9% of non-Hispanic whites. So basically, white people in this country. 89.4% of African Americans had health coverage in 2017, compared to 93.7% of white Americans. 44.1% of African Americans had government health insurance coverage in 2017. 12.1% of African Americans under the age of 65 reported having no health insurance coverage at all. at all. Some more stats that I want to share with y'all. 13.8% of African Americans reported having fair or poor health compared to only 8% of whites. Oh, my bad. I'm being bossed around, y'all. 80% of African American women were considered overweight or obese compared to only 64% of white women. In 2017, 12.6% of African American children had asthma compared to only 7% of white children. I'm almost done. I'm reading this for a reason. In 2018, 8% of African American adults, 8% of African American adults received mental health services.
Wow.
Compared to 18.6, so almost 19% of whites in the country.
Wow.
So nearly double.
Yeah. Right.
So nearly double. One last thing I'm gonna read off before these lovely ladies jump in is in 2018, 3.8% of African American adults reported serious psychological distress. Only 3.8. Now we know for sure that folks were under some pressure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would like to see
Like,
the stats now,
Under pressure.
because I bet you it's probably worse.
So yeah,
This is what we've been going.
So this is the Center. So just so you guys know, I didn't make these numbers up.
Yeah.
You can go to the Center for American Progress and you can look look those numbers up. And also real quick, we're gonna take another quick break up here because I know after reading those stats, we want to make sure that you take that in.
Take it in.
And then
Yes.
Miss Brittany and Dwana is gonna jump in with us. We'll see y'all in just a few
right
minutes.
back.
Welcome back to the Urban Impact Show. And if you're like me, you heard all of those statistics read, and it makes you just think a lot about health,
Yeah.
Black health. You know, what we are dealing with and what has been going on for years as far as Black health is concerned. I take this holistic approach to health. And for me, a lot of the stats you read with the physical health and the mental health, we haven't talked about financial health.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't delved into that yet. We haven't talked about physical, mental health, think about life insurance too as well, another part of health. But the thing is, and spiritual health, which is another piece of this. Like, this all wraps in and they're interwoven together. Because if you're not physically healthy, you're not mentally healthy.
You're not going to be financial.
And then you're not going to be financial healthy,
Right.
because those doctor bills are going to add up and they're going to add up. And then you won't even be in a spiritual realm because you might be mad at the universe or God or whatever you call it, or it might drive you deeper into your faith. So for me, health is this holistic approach. And when one breaks down, all of the others are impacted. And so I know we focus a lot on our physical health, but we've got to be financially healthy. We've got to be mentally healthy. You got to think about spirituality. You know, we've been reminded in this last week too often that life is just ending quickly for people. And you have to be thinking about that spiritual piece. But I know for me, health is something that's really important because I've dealt with a lot of health issues over the years. Things that I can't even connect to why it happened. Doctors can't tell me what caused it, but I've dealt with health issues my entire life. And so it's one thing that's near and dear to me. And I think it's something that we as Blacks need to continue to educate ourselves on, work on, and try for our lawmakers to make things better so that we can have access to healthcare. That's an issue that I don't think is ever going to go away.
Right.
What do you think, Brittany?
I'm right there with you. I think as I'm getting older, I'm focusing more on my health. I don't think it has been something that I had before, because I was an athlete for 15 years. So I was naturally smaller. I naturally ate a little different and more healthy. But now as I start having children and getting older, I've been having to focus on different things that I hadn't before. I think I want to say this past 5 years, our country as a whole, stress wise, we've all been going through a lot of stuff. So I think mental health is something that is really important. I think in a lot of African Americans, we don't want to go talk to somebody, or we don't want to have to focus on that. We don't see a big need for that. But over the past 5 years, I think as a country, we've seen that we have needed it. So it's just, I think African Americans as a whole, we got to get to a place to where it's okay to kind of have mental health check-ins with your friends and your family and promote these things, like promote having a therapist. Something doesn't have to be wrong with you to have a therapist, but just to make sure that you're mentally okay. So I think a lot of these things I haven't had to think about, but as I'm getting older, I'm having to focus on a little bit more.
Right.
I just want to point out the fact that, so I was having this conversation with my sister, Deborah, and she was talking about how she was getting ready to take this trip and how she was trying to figure out, was it too expensive, right? And so she was like, I'm really debating on if I should do this. And then, I told her, like, you really can't put a price on your mental health, right? Because if you're taking this trip because you're like, look, I really just need a break. Like, I really just need to chill.
It's not too expensive.
And I understand people say, oh my God, you got to be more fiscally responsible and you got to do all of this and do all of that. Like, I completely understand all of that. But also, though, we got to remember that what if her trying to be fiscally responsible then leads to other situations because she didn't take the trip, right?
Yep.
Because she did not get that break, right? And so even myself, like, I'm learning just different things and different stuff that's happening, especially when it comes to our women and our children, like what's going on, and then even more so, like what's happening to our men. Yeah. Because a lot of people don't know, but Black boys are 3 times as more likely to commit suicide than their counterpart. Black boys are twice as likely to have a negative encounter with the police department. Black boys are also 12 times likely to be sent to be disciplined or aggressively disciplined by somebody in authority than any other ethnic group and their black girl counterpart. And so, looking at this thing holistically, it's almost mind blowing, because even if you focus on spiritual, it's like, okay, church folk will tell you, oh man, the Lord will work it out. Everything will be all right. And then your therapist will tell you, here's some coping mechanisms.
Take these steps.
Here's this, right? Yeah. Then you go to work so that you can relieve yourself of financial stuff, so that you can have money to pay your bills and don't worry about that. And then it's this cyclical process of what's happening. But if one of those things something was to happen, like death that you can't predict, if the market was to close and jobs and you lost your job, and everybody talks about, people should be more prepared. You should have a savings and you should do all of this.
That's not realistic.
And I'm like, I look at them and I'm like, listen, like, we sitting up here talking to people. One thing, so Marvin Desir pointed this out. He said the jobs that should be going to our teenagers are going to 65 and older people. Yeah. Because we are less likely to have the opportunity to prepare for retirement.
Right.
And so the skills gap is only coming in there because these 65 and older who don't have enough to retire, who don't have enough in Social Security, and let's not even talk about healthcare and how Medicare and Medicaid is just, that's a whole nother, a whole nother thing, right? And so it's like, and so the kids who should have these jobs aren't building these skills until later on, because folks in our community, unbeknownst to them, right? Because you only know what you know. You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. Right.
And so unbeknownst to them, they're having to go back into the workforce after trying to retire and trying to raise a family. And this
that creates another.
It is.
That creates another stress in itself, because I know I've had older people work for me, and like their skill set for the job that we need is so different because older people were used to, back in the day, they had a lot of manual labor jobs, and so now we have a lot of technically sound jobs and they can't keep up. Right. So then that creates more of a stress for them because it's like you can't do well in your job because you don't know like how to work a computer really well, or how to work different programs and things. So then that mentally makes you stress because look, you're older, you got to work because you don't have, retirement funds and things like that. And you can't really do many of these techie jobs that we have nowadays that pay good.
Right.
I'm going to talk about a KO just because I can. Like, every time I see him, something's wrong with his phone. Right? And it's not because it's like something's wrong with the phone. It's user error, right? And so we always got this running joke where he cracks on my height and I crack on the fact that he can't work his devices. Right? And so, and so and so you're absolutely right because all of this stuff, y'all, is so interconnected. And if I'm honest, it honestly hurts my heart because we watch our babies go into foster care and into the system because a parent had a mental breakdown based upon an economic issue that led to a mental issue that led to a physical issue, then that led to a health issue that then led to their child being taken away. And nobody says anything about trying to fix the root of it when we keep treating symptoms and we don't ever go down to the root of it.
And it's mostly our community. So how does that work? Like, why is it mostly in our community?
I'm telling you, it's a system. Like we have not been given the tools. And Dwana, you can speak more to this because you're actually in a position where policy goes forth, right? And you can't. I need people to clearly understand that our democratic system is based upon a majority rule. And so just because we put one person in the seat doesn't mean now that person can hold influence and can try and change the thing. But if we don't get the votes behind that one vote, then we don't win. Right. Like, I'm sorry to use school board as an example, but you can want something really bad. But if the other board members don't vote for it, you're outvoted. No matter
nobody speaks onto it. Right. So what happens is a lot of people who are in these positions of power, as you call them, I always have issues with that word, but for those who are you've elected to seats, rather it's school board, rather it's state house or whatever it is, what happens is then you want them to come through because they're that one. Well, then what happens is when the bill comes forth or when the policy comes forth, no one shows up. So then we're sitting here trying to talk and advocate and say certain things, but then no one shows up. So therefore nothing gets changed. And then guess what happens? We get flooded with thousands of emails that say it's all your fault, but you have to show up to be able to help us to be able to make those changes. And I don't think people get, and I know we'll talk about this in October, about how important your vote is and why it matters, because the issues that we are dealing with are systemic issues that we've been dealing with for years. And if we don't take it upon ourselves to own the responsibility, to get out there and vote, to get out there and, talk to our legislators, to get out there and learn about the policy so that we can make the change. It's like this cycle just continues.
It's a cyclical process. Real quick, I'm gonna read these stats and then we're gonna take another quick break. The number of births for African Americans in this country last year was only 548,000. Only 548,000 people that were considered Black or African American were born last year. The births were between women between the age of 15 and 44, made up 61%.
So more than half of
those births. Percent of adults aged 18 and over that are considered in fair or poor health right now, that are labeled as Black or African American in this country, is 20.2% of people right now. 20%. So imagine if there were 4 people sitting here right now, one of those individuals or 1.5 of those individuals would be considered in poor health, right? And then here we are here. I want to go down to the health coverage piece. And for those who would like to know, this is on cdc.gov. So this is right there on the cdc.gov website. I'm not making these numbers up. Health insurance coverage. This is for black folks, y'all. Percent of adults aged 18 to 64 without health insurance right now in this country that are considered black is 14.3%. So nearly 15% of black folks
Don't have health
No
insurance.
health insurance.
which means that they get treated a certain type of way
Yeah.
They do.
when they go. And then also it leads to the fact that then their health is on a decline
Yeah.
because they can't get
So
certain
remember
type
that
of care.
anytime I think about healthcare or not have insurance, I think about John Q. And when he didn't have insurance and his son couldn't get that heart transplant.
Yeah.
Because that could be anyone who doesn't have insurance if something like that happens.
Yeah.
So let me say this and then we'll go to break. The leading causes of death right now for African Americans, according to the CDC website,
Right.
is heart disease, cancer, and accidents, unintentional injuries. So let me say this real quick. For those who may snore when you sleep, where you have sleep apnea, if you are between the age of 25 and 40, if you have sleep apnea, if you don't get that treated, by the time you turn 50, you run the risk of heart disease
I didn't know that.
could have been stopped by getting a CPAP or something like that.
I didn't know that. That's good to know.
And so we lack because of knowledge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
And lastly, access.
Yep,
Exactly.
Absolutely.
We don't know what we don't know.
That's right.
We'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break. Welcome to the Urban Impact Show.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Brittany. I'm one of your hosts of the Urban Impact Show. Today, we're talking about all things health. Dwana, you want to bring us back in with what you were talking about?
Yes, the Urban Impact Show is sponsored by Green and Wood Media Services. Green and Wood uses digital media to help businesses, political campaigns, and organizations grow while increasing their community impact. Green and Wood Media is pleased to offer digital media buying fellowship to train, develop, and mentor young people interested in digital media, politics, and advertising. Learn more at greenandwoodmedia.com.
So if you got a young person that's interested in doing media, doing advertisement, getting into politics, go to that. What's that website?
That website is greenandwoodmedia.com.
Green and Wood Media. Shout out to them and thank you for being a sponsor.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Shout out to them. If it wasn't live, I would have Matt put in the
Oh, yeah.
yes, thing. Hey, so anyway, I can't thank y'all enough for watching this show because without the viewers, we would not have opportunity to do what we're doing or reach who we can reach. And so we want to make sure that we're providing you with opportunities to learn, to grow as we do the exact same every week. So we came prepared. Today's topic is about health. And we're doing it in a general sense because next week we're going to be talking about...
We will be talking about your physical health, and we will also be talking about your financial health next week.
And then the third week we'll be talking about...
Your mental health.
Mental health. Yep. It's going to be a cold red takeover the third week of September. And then the last week of September, we going to talk about the church.
That's right. And your
talk about
spiritual health. Yes.
That's what you need to have for everything else to be working correctly. I feel like everything kind of ties in together. So if your spiritual health is where it needs to be, I think that ties everything back together.
And you know what? There's 1,000 people that would definitely agree with you. And then I also know that there's
10,000 people that would say no.
And I agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm on the same page. When my spirit is off, my vibe is
You
off.
can feel it.
Like my energy, and so now it's so much going on right now. There's such this big thing, and we're gonna talk about it on the 26th. I know folks they talking about the crystals, and they talking about the energy, and they talking about the sage, and we gonna dive into it on the 26th.
I'm just holding myself together because y'all know spiritual health is where I am at. Y'all know me by now. It is the foundation for me that keeps me sane. Like literally, if it wasn't for my spiritual health, I know I would be a mess. And that to me is the most important. And I agree with you both that if my spiritual house is in order, everything else makes sense. But that doesn't mean that the physical health doesn't go off. Yeah. That doesn't mean I haven't had, health problems. That doesn't mean that my finances haven't been out of whack, because they have been, but I'm still able to center it back when it comes to my spiritual health.
So, in talking about this with some friends of mine, one of my friends brought up the fact that we have not on this show talked about sex. We haven't brought up the fact that HIV, AIDS, herpes, chlamydia, gonorrhea, all of this are sexually transmitted diseases. And that's a health concern. It is in our community
that we don't talk about.
We don't talk. We don't
say the word.
From it, or it's like you think that's education too. We're just not educated on it enough, or people just don't want to talk about it.
So I'll be honest with you. So we are technically speaking, and Madison can probably get me the numbers on this. Des Moines is in a herpes crisis right now.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was going to say syphilis.
What age groups is it? Is it like kids, like the younger
18 to 35.
Because they're not as educated on sex and different things like that?
It's a major thing happening right now in our community. And folks need to be aware of this, right? You need to be aware of what's going on. You don't know how many sexual partners somebody has had,
But why aren't you, think about yourself though, why aren't you having those conversations? Like, if you're serious with somebody,
think about young folks though. Like,
at the end of the day, it's like, look, I'm horny, she feeling it, I'm feeling it.
Who's having those conversations? Like that.
If these numbers are so high, if you're I'm not saying I'm an angel, but like, I'm just saying, if you're sleeping with somebody and it's like, it gets serious, you should have those conversations.
But I think I'm thinking about being young. Yeah. And I'm not thinking about that kind of stuff at that moment in time.
You're not asking people.
I'm really not. I mean, it just goes back to what Rob just said. Like, you're not thinking about that in the moment. Now, I might say now, looking over my life now, I might be thinking about that.
So you tell your kids that though.
You can tell, but they're still young too.
Yeah. They don't do what they want to do.
So the same thing is, you can tell kids that. We can have sex education in school. We can give all of our kids this information, and it still comes down to that. It doesn't matter because they're making those choices.
But if we give them those stats, like I feel like when I was younger, if I heard those stats, I would be scared straight. I didn't hear that type of stuff though.
I don't know if I would be scared straight.
If you were 18 and they're like, "Hey, herpes is going around," or
I don't know. I'm just keeping 100. I don't know if I would be scared. I would literally I would maybe pause and be like, "Hey, you got herpes?" Right. Hey, before we do this, you got something you want to tell me? Like, okay, all right, come on. Right, and so I'm gonna keep it all.
I'm not thinking. I'm telling you, when I was younger, I was the most hard-headed person and I'm still hard-headed, but I was more hard-headed when I was younger, and literally, I wasn't listening to anyone. Yeah. You weren't going to tell me nothing. There was no fear going on in my life. I did what I wanted to do because I could do it. So those stats would not have mattered to me.
Were you one of the people who's like, well, it wouldn't be me? If it's
I would honestly tell you.
Percent is okay. It wouldn't be me.
Yeah, I'm like, no, that ain't gonna happen to me. That's them other folks that's gonna happen to, but it's not gonna happen to me. And so that's the attitude I know I had when I was younger. So it wouldn't mean anything to me.
So I also know that our spiritual folks that's coming on the 26th that's gonna really battle in with our sex education folks, that's gonna talk about sex and sex ed. and all of that stuff. The world that we live in right now is really changing and really shifting. Even look at, and yes, I'm about to go here. Look at how the church views the LGBTQ community, right? Look at that shift that is happening. When at first it was like this big taboo thing. You didn't talk about it, even though the choir director was switching a little bit, and doing all of this.
But now I'm almost scared to even have an opinion, because any opinion that you do have, not just saying church folk, any opinion you do have on like the LBG community, it's attacked, whether it's good or bad or whatever. So it's almost like you don't even want to have the conversation, because I don't want to be wrong in whatever I say to somebody.
I want to bring some folks back on, like Buffy, who came on last time to do some education, right? Okay. A friend said to me, she said, Rob, telling your pronouns is not a support or non-support thing. What it is it's a tolerance thing, and it's a way of saying you are safe here.
Yeah. Right.
Like of telling somebody else that you're safe in this space. Like,
what's an example of that?
Who you are.
Like, so saying identifying with yourself to somebody is...
Right. So when you're in a group space and you hear folks say, "Hi, my name is Rob. My pronouns are he, him, his." Yes. Like that. And so, obviously, I'm not all the way educated myself, myself on it, but I do believe that when we're talking about health overall, like we gotta make sure that our community, which includes some of our LGBTQ brothers and sisters, like that they feel included in that conversation, right? That they feel like, hey, I know we're gonna talk about church, I know we're gonna talk about sex, I know we're gonna talk about our LGBTQ community. We also gonna talk about mental health. Yeah. We also gonna talk about physical. Exactly. And then for me, I'm gonna be real. The most important, I guess it's not the most important part, but I mean, we gotta talk about this money. like we gotta talk about the money, because at the end of the day, in order for us to even sit here, it takes money. Money.
Yep.
Matt ain't gonna show up for free
if he ain't paid.
You know what I'm saying? Madison ain't gonna schedule and book and make sure everything is running smooth for free.
Paid.
You know what I'm saying? We ain't showing up for free.
We're not paid.
You know what I'm saying? But
And we have to get out of that mindset too. And I'll tell you, I carried that mindset for a little bit, starting things out, would be doing stuff for free, or, don't worry, I'm not going to charge you.
Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah. And I would start out that way, because you're always, for me, I would call it, trying to help. But I got to a point to where I tell people now, I'm not showing up.
Well,
if I'm not getting paid.
Think about it. It's like you're at the point now. You're not giving away free game. Why are you giving away free game? You know what you're worth. Yeah. You're stepping away from your kids, your family. This is, time that you will be spending for them. And it's like the game is to be sold, not told.
Yeah. You know what I mean? That makes sense now, but like 3-4 years ago, it didn't make sense for me, because I was so busy trying to, get the name out there, get the media company, get the magazine, all these things that I was doing to get out there, that I was selling myself short. Now I've gotten to a point where I just look at folks and I'm like, no, you're going to have to
pay me. My time.
Exactly. It costs. It costs. Yes.
I've been losing friends and gaining peace. It sounds like a fair trade to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Drake.
Shout out to Drizzy Drake.
Shout out to Certified Love.
But and here's one other thing that I want to do, because with my niece and nephew, I look at them, I learn more from them, like watching them, and they teach me. They definitely teach me a lot. And Sheldon is with me a lot. Sanaya's really into like that girly girl stuff. So shout out to her mentors who really help out, and her mom, but Sheldon is with me the most, and it's interesting to watch how they view stuff and how they look at stuff, because it's like
sitting back listening to kids' conversations.
Oh,
like
God,
during like when we were voting for presidents and going through that, like just hearing my son and his friends kind of talk about it, it was like really interesting just to hear their take. So you're right, like kids literally have a different take on things. And
I was trying my best though, because Sheldon would say, "That guy's with Trump. We ain't with that. We ain't with that, right?" And he'll be like, "Oh, or is he with Joe Biden? Oh, okay, he's
Right.
cool. He's cool if he's with Joe Biden, right?" And so I was trying to navigate that space very delicately, because I don't want him thinking that somebody that supports Trump is like a bad person or whatever, and somebody who supports Joe Biden is a good person or whatever, right? Because that could be the complete opposite. Because even if you look at child welfare laws have advanced further with Republicans than they have with Democrats. If you look at child health care, has advanced more with Republicans than they have with Democrats, because Democrats got caught up in the conversation, and then the conversations went nowhere. And so even looking at how we have those conversations in a healthy way,
Right.
is even something that we look at on a broader scale of what's happening right now in our community.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, so I know I feel like I'm like jumping to multiple topics. It's just because like when we have so much out here that, I mean, look at allergies, right? Everybody that I know is suffering with some type of
butt.
Bad. Yeah.
right?
My son is going through it right now.
And they're bad.
And allergies have the same symptoms as
COVID.
COVID,
Yep.
right? So you can't even sniffle
Without people are like, hold on.
without getting ready to go to blows with somebody.
Yeah.
Now that's crazy. Like you cough, you sneeze, people are looking like, hold on, what's going on? You're like, my nose is draining, or like it's allergy season. Like it's almost like you have to defend yourself now.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
We'll forever have to defend ourselves now when it comes to allergies. I find myself going in the room telling folks it's just my allergies. Like I just want to tell you that right now, before we get going. But I think the COVID thing is another thing that has really messed with us. When you talk about holistically being messed up, I think COVID has messed with our mental health in ways that we'll see this years down the road. Of course, it's messed with our physical health for folks, who have had it or who are dealing with it, or from even the vaccination and having that, impact your physical health, and definitely can make an impact on your financial health if you get stuck in the hospital and you're there for days on end.
Like we went through, like when it first happened, jobs shutting down,
there was
people not
nothing
being
there.
able to work and run their businesses to unemployment, and then now unemployment's over. But some people had to, be on unemployment. And then, like we talked about last week, people birthed a lot of businesses during that time because of the financial crisis, because some jobs were shutting down and pay was low, so.
Yeah.
I just want y'all to know right now, so Iowa has a total population of what?
It's about
About 3 million
I was going to say
people.
2 to 3 million
So
people.
we have about 3 million people. Madison, will you fact check that for me?
I think it is around close to 3.
I just want to make sure that we fact check that. Yes, the state of Iowa has a total population of. We have while we're fact checking that,
141,606 as of 2019.
the whole state.
The whole state.
Okay. Iowa?
We're talking about. So overall, y'all, I want y'all to know our cases, our COVID cases.
3.1 million.
Thank you.
3.1 million in the state of Iowa. I thought it was about 3 million. Yeah.
3.1 million people. Out of that number, 412,000 people have been infected with COVID.
Wow. Since the beginning.
Since the beginning. 3.1 million. 412,000 people have been infected with COVID. Nearly 6,300 people have died from COVID.
Wow.
Right now, our hospitals currently are overwhelmed I saw something the other day where somebody said, I went to Mercy, I went to the ER, had to wait 8 hours to be seen.
It's crazy.
8 hours. Can you imagine if you were sitting there having an asthma attack
Right, you had to wait.
for 8 hours?
8 hours.
I wonder, do they say like, hey, you can, if you go to, you can go to another hospital to get help or whatever. Like, but imagine that, like having to shuffle around to find somewhere to get treated.
And so right now, let's see here. Let's look at, so for those who may be listening in Polk County, right now, currently, 63,926 people with COVID. Currently.
It's just terrible, the whole COVID thing. And I'm going to get on my little soapbox here with COVID, okay? Because I really believe, I think this is the craziest thing with COVID is that we are arguing over masks and vaccinations.
Is that crazy?
It is the craziest thing to me. We have had health crises happen within the United States over the years, and our health officials say, do this, and boom, we've moved on to the next thing. We are arguing and talking about masks and vaccinations being a civil rights issue. I think it's the craziest thing that I'm witnessing right now in life, that it's never been. We've always been a place where if they say it's unhealthy or we need to do something so it goes away, we just do it.
Right.
Now, everyone's looking for the conspiracy theory behind the vaccination. Everyone's looking for the conspiracy theory behind masks. And I think it's the craziest thing right now that we're no longer listening to health officials.
Right.
Because now we've dug in to figure out, well, something's wrong with them and what they... And the majority of them are all actually saying the same thing. If we get vaccinated, we can move this thing out of the way.
Yeah.
But now what we've done is we've dissected vaccinations to talk about how it's been made, who they tested it on, the impacts that it has on us. And I always find this interesting because we didn't do this with H1N1. And if we did, maybe I just wasn't listening, but we didn't do this with H1N1. Did we do this when chickenpox or pneumonia shots? There's all these different things that we get. Yeah. And I'm only talking to the people who get these shots. There are some people who I know don't get shots. They don't believe in them for religious reasons. I'm not talking to you, but for folks who you get the flu shot all the time, but now we can't get vaccinated for COVID. It's just mind-blowing to me that this is the space and the place that we're living in, and every politician is telling you something about why this is messed up, and we're believing all of this, and we're creating this bigger space of COVID hasn't left, in my opinion, because we won't do what we're supposed to do.
They said that if folks get vaccinated and start following rules by 2022, we should have a hold on everything.
Who are the people who are in the hospital right now are the ones who are unvaccinated. I think the last thing I heard was 88% of the people who are holding the beds are people who are unvaccinated. And I think that was here in the state of Iowa or Polk County, I heard that in this 88% are unvaccinated people who are holding the beds. So I'm not trying to start nothing, but we can't get to the hospital.
I'm not trying to start nothing,
but we can't get in the hospital because people aren't getting vaccinated. And I think that's just crazy.
So many people would tell you, like, I'm not taking that. And you should be promoting it. Like,
oh, I'm going to keep promoting it. Let me tell you right now, I am alive and I am healthy and I am okay. And this goes back to spiritual. I prayed for a vaccine. Y'all call me crazy if you want. We needed a vaccine. It was crazy around here. I prayed for a vaccine, and I'm not saying that one prayer did anything, but I prayed for a vaccine because
it at least passed the ceiling.
Well, it got somewhere, because it happened, all right? It went somewhere. But I'm serious because we needed some help. We didn't know folks didn't know what to do. We shutting down things. And if you go back and look at history, y'all, this happened in 1918, 1919 with the Spanish flu. A lot of people, we don't educate ourselves. If you go back and look at that history, it's the exact same thing that they dealt with back then.
They wore masks.
And they did. And they argued about it too. Nope, masks don't work. We shouldn't do this. Don't touch me.
Did they get vaccinated back then?
They tried,
There was a vaccine that came out. But you got to remember that thing mutates.
It does.
That thing
into
mutates.
all these different variants.
Yeah. And the crazy part to me though about COVID-19, it was the whole like this was man-made.
Yeah. From China.
That's what blew my mind.
That was the narrative for a while. Like probably the first year, I would say that was the narrative.
You know. Also, I know we only got a couple minutes left, so I want to say this, and then we're gonna go to final thoughts. You have. I was just told right before I got out of my car that if we don't get a hold on this by December, we will add to our death rate another 100,000 people by December.
Wow.
So here's why I say I'm okay with it is because if you give it to a child who may be asymptomatic, who then gives it to their grandmother or their mother or someone in their family that's not, that could potentially die.
Yeah.
And it all because we just didn't want to do it ourselves.
Right.
So anyway, I know we almost out of time, so I'm gonna go ahead on. I'm gonna slide it to you, Brittany, for final thoughts. Then you, Dwana, and then we out of here.
You know, like I stated earlier, my focusing on my health hadn't been like a huge priority when I was younger, just because we're not educated on a lot of things being very young. I didn't have a lot of, I guess, sicker people in my family. I didn't see it, you know, a lot. But my goal now is to make sure I'm educating others, educating my son, especially, you know, hearing the statistics about in Des Moines, just like the herpes, you know, the numbers on herpes and other sexual transmitted diseases, and just making sure I'm educating my kid and myself. And I'm excited this month to hear, you know, to talk about all things health. I think we got a lot of good guests this month, you know, to spend some time talking with, and I'm excited to kind of continue this conversation and build my knowledge based on, you know, health, whether it be, you know, financial, spiritual health, and, you know, mental health. So I'm excited for this month.
Yeah, I just want to say, we at the Urban Impact Show care about your health.
Yes.
We would not spend time talking about this. The problem is we don't talk about this stuff enough.
Yep.
You know, we act like health in the Black community, oh, we're fine, or I love grandma, but you know, some of those remedies that grandma gives, you know, it doesn't work anymore. We have to be able to be okay with talking about our health, rather it's our mental health and saying we need help. It's our physical health. I don't have health insurance, but I need some help, you know, type of conversations. You know, in our religious, our spirituality, our financial health, we have to be able to have those conversations. Y'all, we are dying. We've got things that are going on in this world that are just crazy, and we have to educate ourselves. And it's the same thing. You don't know what you don't know, but learn about some of these things that we're bringing up today and what we're talking about. We want you to overall be better, healthy. And I am going to say this one more time. If you're not vaccinated, just look into it. I'm not going to tell you, you must, but I do believe that vaccinations make a difference. So I want you all to educate yourselves, look it up, learn it for yourself about what being vaccinated means, how it has helped over the years. And, you know, I want you all to be able to do your best.
Here's what I'm going to say. At the end of the day, you are a good person. You may not be perfect by any means, but your intentions are good. Your heart is still pure, and someone do love you. You are worth it. You may not be someone's first choice, but you're a great choice. You may not be rich, but you're valuable. Don't pretend to be someone that you're not, because being you is just fine. We may not be proud of all of the things that we've done in our past, but be proud of who you are today. We may not be perfect again, but you also don't need to be. Take a time, give yourself some grace. Walk in that, sit in that. But always remember that as we discuss this thing called health, that you are worth it. You always have been, and you always will be. Thank you for watching the Urban Impact Show. We'll see y'all next week.